Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddee P. I'm your host, Maddee P. Girl. Hey, oh my God, hey. Last week was kind of intense. I feel like I have to say that once every 5 episodes or I freak out, but I'm back. And to be honest, it's not been that long since I've seen you. I think I've leveled up though. Okay, some serious healing has happened this summer. And y'all know this is what it takes. You need to did I just grunt for real? You need to put all your energy into something that you're afraid of. So I was so scared of this summer and what sobriety was going to look like for me, what friendship, what girlhood, what all this shit that I was yearning for was going to look like. And I prepared myself. I was like, nah, I'm staying sober. I'm going to keep this shit in 10. I'm keeping my relationships. I'm keeping my brain happy and healthy. This is the better life. And if I can't see that, that's my fault. That's my problem. Not necessarily my fault. I get it. Shit's hard for me. But yeah. And I set out to accomplish that shit. And where am I right now? I am in July, thriving, flirty, glowing, happy, sober, living my best life, y'all. Living my best life. So if you're scared of shit, dive in head first and prepare yourself because you can be prepared for shit, okay? And when you're scared of something coming, then you best buckle down and get on that grown woman shit and be ready for it, okay? That was an intense start. Honestly, I'm just thankful. I'm blessed to be sitting here right now, this intensely in love with my life and ready to move forward with struggles, with hardships, with aches. But I'm seeing the beautiful side of shit right now. And that's awesome. So we'll warm up a little bit. Last week was mad intense. We talked about eating disorders. If you missed it, go watch it. We will talk about it again because it's a big part of my life. Okay. And after filming it too, I have had a few run-ins of my brain really clicking in place. It gave me some severe accountability because when it comes to food, it's kind of like alcohol in a way where you think you're accountable, you think you're on 10, you think you're doing what you're supposed to do, and you're just not. You're drunk. You have an eating disorder. You're not doing well, And it's something that sneaks up in the back of my brain that just kind of happens and something I'll fight forever. So go back and watch it. It was a great episode in my opinion. A little bit sticky of a start. I think I'm nervous today. I'm never nervous to film, but I'm nervous today. So first thing I have to tell you is that I miss the Hunger Games. The cast is coming. Haymitch is coming. Daddy Haymitch is coming to save us all from our film debt that we're going through due to these heinous films being released that aren't the Hunger Games and these heinous books being released that are not the Hunger Games. And I'm in Divergent right now, y'all. I fucking miss the Hunger Games. Fuck anybody that's not Suzanne Collins, to be completely honest. I just want to get it out. And I feel like this is where I can get it out because all I can hear in my brain is Panem today, Panem tomorrow, Panem forever, brother. Forever, brother. Panem forever. Sorry, I think. I've done a lot, right? I told you guys last time I saw you, I had a candlelit dinner coming up. I was about to be out with the girls, y'all. And then I had a surprise friend in town. Let me tell you, when you're afraid, when you're not sure how to move forward, when you're afraid of yourself, girlhood, bitch. You're feeling down, girlhood, bitch. You're not feeling confident. You don't feel like you can be your best self, girlhood. Go find your girls, latch onto them and steal their laughter and just store it in your heart and keep it for a rainy day. Because also, we'll do a whole going out solo, what dating myself really looks like and what I mean by that. Not today, but we'll unfold that because I know it's not easy for everyone to go explore their life and explore their city and go on solo dates. And it's not easy for everyone. I was born out of the box. Okay. I was born an extrovert, made an introvert. Okay. So naturally I'm fine. You cannot embarrass me. Alleged. That candlelit dinner. What the fuck what am I on today? Candlelit symphony. Don't think it's a symphony concert. Was the best experience, y'all. I felt so sophisticated and I meditated before I left purposefully to really get me in the mood to ponder. We don't do that enough as a society together. Y'all know how I feel about pondering, about quiet contemplation, all of these things. And back in the hizzy, I've been on my history shit too. Just ignore me. Back in the hizzy, motherfuckers used to congregate to ponder. That creates such a beautiful thing in society. Like, we could be so much smarter. We need to level up, y'all. Doing shit like this. You gather together and you don't necessarily, it's not like a regular concert, you know? So you're not like singing, you're not vibing, you're not drinking. There wasn't even wine served. I wasn't even nervous about the alcohol part because it's been a while, obviously. But there wasn't even wine there. So if you're thinking about going, they don't serve wine. At least the one I went to at Magnolia Plantation. So go. There's literally no way you could drink or fall into a trap or feel ostracized or feel weird. Anywho, so you're not dancing, you're thinking and you're being an adult. And like, I feel like for some people that could be intense, or maybe like I was a little bit nervous about that factor, about like, I'm awkward. I don't care about being awkward though anymore. It's part of who I am. That caused me hating me being awkward, caused addiction inside of me, and it caused not good stuff to happen. So I try to not care that I'm awkward or if I would be awkward or what would happen. Clearly, I make this. So clearly. And it was just like silence in the room, you know, and everyone just watching and like taking live music into your chest and like unites you, and it makes you feel something and it makes you think together, which is the whole point. And I had like some good realizations in there, was just thinking and thinking and thinking, and I just loved it. I don't know. Okay. Is that sophistication? I don't know. I wouldn't be mad though. You know, like I'm putting that on my dating resume. Not really. But that being said, I think that was the elite thing to do alone. So now I'm going to look for many more things that are similar-esque in a way to do by myself, because I've already done fucking everything else. So if you're contemplating going to Candlelight, go. Following day later, what did I do? Took my big chunky behind. No, I don't have a permit to drive this thing. I've already told y'all. To the pool. Not just any pool, the Wanderer. If you're wondering. Oh my. You can throw a tomato at me for that. You can. It was fantastic. It's a party pool, okay? It's a very big party environment. And it was just like last year. We go every year for my friend's birthday. And I had like connections with each girls, just like I did when I was drinking. And I thought that I couldn't get that into life or like that into the party. And everyone around me is drunk and drinking. But like, I'm allowed there and I'm loved and I'm cherished and I'm in the middle of the action. No one cares I'm not drinking. They love me deeply. And like, you have to be open to that though. And I don't want you to push yourself. I don't think I was ready initially to do stuff like that, to be that open to where like you're part of society either way, because you chose that for yourself. You chose to be there. I am here. I'm a person. I'm ready to vibe. My heart is open the same way yours is, and I'm not drunk. You gotta pull out that natural drunkenness in you, which takes a while to get there. But now that I have it, oh my girl. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This is what I worked for summer to happen. So this could naturally occur within me. Already at 8 minutes at warm-ups. What's with me and warm-ups, y'all? Okay, that's really all I have to say. That's really all I have to say about warm-ups, okay? Is that what I needed in my soul was girlhood, and to be reminded that those bitches love me through and through. And you know what the whole point to life is? Laughing. If I'm being so for real. Like, and I had so many deep conversations. I had a friend come visit me too, and she's like my spiritual bestie, and like, we are soul tied, okay? We don't see each other for a long time, and when we do, it's just like, we can't shut the fuck up. Like, we just really get each other deeply. And I opened up to her about a lot of stuff too, and it's just like, that's all I need in life when I'm feeling down. So if you're feeling down, you're having a hard time in your sobriety, and your sobriety wants you to be alone, it's like clawing at you. It's like, don't make plans. Don't go out. You could be triggered. You could be upset. No, you couldn't. Go spend that time with your girls. Invite a girl over. Ask that of people. Tell people you're struggling with connection. That's what I tell my friends too recently. Like even the other day, I was like nervous going into it, kind of, you know, this was like, how long ago was this? When did I see y'all last? What the heck? And it was just kind of like, I did share with somebody, you know, like a few people, just like, hey, I'm like a little timid, I'm a little weird, and I'm struggling with connection. Okay. Those girls come and find you on that limb because they love you. And when you ask that of people, they follow through. People are better than we think. Our friends are better than we think. They understand you so much more, and it's your fault. Like, sorry, I'm trying to say my fault if you're not open to that. If you can't see that, then that's some internal work that needs to be done. And we did an episode on that before, and it changed my life, but it reoccurs within me because I struggle with connection because I'm an addict. And that's the way that my brain works. I will always struggle with it. Maybe not always, we're working on it, but the point is I have tools. The point is I try. The point is I connect, and I have open lines of communication with the people in my life so they understand where I'm coming from, because I struggle to articulate it. And because of that reason, it keeps me in a hole. And that doesn't have to happen, y'all. We can be ourselves. We can be free. We can be happy. Okay? Needless to say, look at girl. Look at girl. I'm on cloud nine. This summer has just been a delight. My friends are a delight. If you're watching this and I love you, you're a fantastic person. And I'm so glad you're in my life. And I love you deeply. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay. This week, what are we talking about, girls? What are we talking about, girls? See how it brings out my femininity too. Like, it just makes me who I really am. Because let me tell you, no one is funny like a bitch is. Okay. Men are not funny. Girls, funny. Really funny. And they get your jokes. Girl, we those bitches. Okay. This week, what are we talking about? Oh my God. Get on with it. Oh, I just looked outside and I'm going to get sun and guilt. So I'm going to look this way. It's 4th of July. Don't crack them firecrackers on me, girl. By the way, happy 4th of July. Back it up, Terry. And don't pop them firecrackers on me, girl. I don't care about 4th of July. If you haven't noticed, I'll be working in a few hours here. Okay. Today, we are talking about the difference in some ways in drug addiction and alcoholism. Not in a defined state. We all know I know doctor. Nobody's therapist. I may be somebody's sponsor one day. T. Okay, development. Okay, growth. All I wanted in my sobriety was to be able to help other women. And the fact that happens to me on a daily basis now, or I have people approach me, maybe not daily, but I aim to help on a daily basis. And I do have people approach me saying that I inspire them, like close people to me, is all I dreamed of when getting help, because I just knew that was my life. Okay, I knew that was my light and that was my path. It's where my passion lies. Okay, so the difference in my personal experience, because this is what this podcast is about. It's really about my personal experience. With the difference of drugs and alcoholism and how I landed on being an alcoholic. I am an addict. We'll get into it. I don't know. I thought it was a fun combo. I really kind of struggled with this getting into sobriety, because I was like, where do I lie? What's going on? My brain was playing tricks on me, and we'll get into it. Welcome. And I guess that kind of starts with the fact that y'all know, I'm not going to reiterate, y'all know my story. If you don't, episode 1, we talk about my story. It kind of gives you an update. And by the time I got into AA and was needing help to get clean from alcohol, I had been clean for a year from drugs. That is something that just happened. It was about who I was dating, and that one night it clicked. I think it's one of those divine timing things I talked to you about. One night everything clicked and I was like, holy fuck, I'm addicted to drugs. Holy shit. Wait, this runs in my veins. This is bad. This is not good. And I was in love with this person, and it worked and it clicked. And it wasn't a threat. This person was not like, I hate this person, by the way. We'll talk about him one day. Motherfucker, nasty motherfucker. If you ever see this, die in a hell. You go into hell. You're going straight to hell. I don't know if you were coming from hell at that point or going straight to it, but I was somewhere in the middle. And this person did not make me. This person did not care that I did coke. He was a shitty person in recovery, looking back. Because I'm like, you didn't even care that I was around you doing coke all the time? Like, you didn't even care about your own sobriety, first of all. Not my place. Whew. Not my place. But it inspired me, and he really helped me. And I knew that I couldn't continue on this path of being a drug lord. Truly, that's what it was. So yeah, anyways, that being said, by the time that I got to recovery, my focus was alcohol, because I was very sick. I was very much so suffering. So what had happened in the past was not really in my forefront. I was just trying to get clean. I was just trying to get some fucking help. And I was just trying to honestly survive in this world, if we're being so for real. So alcohol was my focus going into recovery. This is kind of organized. I don't know why I need to preface again with this. Not a preface. We're like 15 minutes in, but not quite the organization I was hoping for today. So just bear with me again, like usual. With drugs, it was so different quitting, because I didn't go through recovery and I didn't mend any broken part of me on the inside. That is what healing is. If you are getting clean, it is impossible to not look inward. Okay. That's what longevity looks like in sobriety, is healing all the things that cause that, so that hopefully we don't go back to it again. And I didn't understand that about sobriety. I didn't understand that about quitting. And drugs are such a different healing process to me personally in my life than they are from alcohol, because they're two different stories. They're two different versions of myself, genuinely. And y'all know I split myself into these versions, and it's happened my whole life. Like, I go through eras, truly. Like I am just that, you know, like I have this era, going through this phase and that phase, and I'm completely different people often, or I have been. Now I'm who I am. Okay. I've collected all my favorite parts from those girls in my past and developed this sunshine ray of queenness that exists now. That was not always the case. Because I was always looking for a place to belong. So I thought I had to build that in myself. I thought I had to fit into that. It's vice versa, right? So when I did get off Coke, I think I've talked about this before, so this might not be a surprise. It was way easier than getting off alcohol. Only in the sense of like, alcohol is something that like that ebbs and flows, right? On terms of me craving it. Because I'm having a wonderful summer with my friends and people protect me and I'm happy, and I know I wouldn't have this much fun or have the room to have this much fun or be this happy if it was that I was still drinking. And that's a complete blessing that I'm counting. Y'all see me counting it. Y'all see me counting that motherfucking blessing by 5. But it stuck with me. Craving alcohol stuck with me for a very long time, and I'm sure it'll come back in my life. I'm sure that I will crave it. It's part of me. It's who I am at my core. Like, unfortunately, I'm an alcoholic through and through, truly. But it was different with Coke. I quit, and then the first like few times of drinking without Coke were really sucky. I hated it. It was atrocious. I didn't feel well because I was doing Coke like pretty much around the clock. I had my days that I didn't, and I had my days I did. If you do Coke, you get it. I don't need to recount at this time in this episode, I think, the depths of my drug addiction, because that's just not what we're here to talk about right now. But it was a different way of getting off. And then once I kind of, and you've heard this before, once I got off Coke, it was just like I'd never done it in a way. The scarring was stuck to me forever, but in terms of wanting it, I was just like, no, bruh. Like, and I had my days like later following where I'd have nights out where I just like, and I didn't count it. I wasn't counting time. So I truly don't even know the last time I did Coke. I think I can pinpoint it in my brain, but I wasn't like counting time. It was like, you know, if I were to go back, I just knew that I'd probably be stuck in a cycle, and it luckily stayed that I didn't do Coke anymore. And it was easy after that. That not to say that not to say that drug addiction is easier than alcoholism. I honestly think the opposite, if we're being so for real right now. Both suck, both are shitty, and both are the same thing, but they're also very different. Yikes. And I guess I'm explaining that situation and kind of the difference between the two, because it's not that easy. It's not the fact that you just get off Coke and it is what it is. I was not using recreationally. This was not a party situation. I have come to grow to understand where people are coming from when they say, well, if you're doing Coke, you have a problem with something. Like you don't recreationally do those hard drugs. Not true. Have any of you ever met Britney Spears? Sorry. Bad example. Paris Hilton? Lindsay Lohan? People are watching like we don't. Yeah, they're Coke addicts. But yeah, I've grown to understand that if you're doing Coke, there's something happening, right? There's something going on. I didn't understand that at the time. So you guys just don't touch Coke. I'm getting myself into a talking circle right now that I shouldn't be on, and I should move on to the next point. Don't do Coke. Don't do it. It's not cute. It's not fun. Boys do not like it. Okay. Boys do not want you on Coke. And if he does, he ain't the one. Trust me. He ain't the one, baby. And I think at the end of the day, it was divine timing. And I am an addict who was blessed beyond belief to get out of the claws of addiction in that way. I think I got away unscathed obviously not unscathed whatsoever, but I think I got myself out of the cycle sooner than maybe could have even been planned for my life. If we're being so for real, this is the first time I made a decision that it was the first taste of healing, right? I didn't actually heal, but I made a conscious decision in myself that this was not good for me and that it was ruining me, and it made me want to kill myself. And that was not something I could continue to do anymore. And I wonder if that, like, you know, because I'm not sure we all have plans, like how much longer I could have gone on that cycle. The answer is probably forever, honestly, knowing myself. But I think through and through, I'm obviously a drug addict who was blessed, and that's what it is. I escaped it barely, honestly. And I think at that point too, the main thing about Coke that I had this with my alcoholism really bad, but I think I was so sick. It was so different. And coke sick, drug sick is different. Alcoholism, your body stops, like you cannot proceed forward. Coke, you can continue to spiral out of control for a while, before you're having effects that are physically stopping you from being able to go forward. For years, people are on coke before they hit that point. And I don't even want to know what a coke addicted mind of myself would look like for an extended amount of time, and it is not good. But a main piece of me quitting was like, who would I be? Would people like me? Could I party? Could I drink? Could I be the same person that I was when I was on coke? And it was in my mind like this. That was all I cared about, was other people during my coke addiction and quitting my addiction. Whereas alcoholism became a super independent thing, and I kind of stopped caring if I wasn't going to be that person anymore. Yeah, it was a fear of mine for sure, and I hated that, but like I couldn't care because it was like this or life or death in a way. It is way different because it was just like, okay, if y'all hate me for real. Like if y'all never see me again, I'm sorry. Like I got to survive these creeks, and I cannot keep surviving as an alcoholic. I'm going to die. And so it was so much more about other people, which is kind of interesting to me when I like look back at it, because I was even more selfish. I was my most selfish. Don't get me wrong. Alcoholism is a selfish disease. I was selfish as fuck. I've been selfish as fuck my whole life. But around coke, holy selfishness. This is when I started to go behind my friend's back. This is when I would lie to my friends, my sister, my family. This is when I got gross, really slimy and gross. I was like that in alcoholism too, but drugs make me that monster, like that worse version of selfishness, of willing. Alcoholism is selfishness on account of not giving a fuck about anybody but myself. Coke and drugs was selfishness in a way of in spite of them, and I don't mind hurting them. I don't mind doing things to get my way. And that was the difference in selfishness that existed, because at alcohol I'm like a slug, like, and I don't need to steal liquor, babe. There's a store up the street. So it's like, I don't need to be selfish with my liquor because I got a whole handle, babe. We can go get more liquor tomorrow. Shit. We can go get more liquor in an hour. Shit. It's different. I can't go get another bag, right? So it just like created this disgusting monster. And like, me quitting too at that point with drugs was like my brain trauma, genuine trauma, was not even on the radar. So with alcoholism, it was on the radar. I knew. I'm like, yeah, this is bad. I did not care that my brain had suffered at such traumatic hands of cocaine, genuinely. And I had done other drugs in my life. Molly had a similar effect and kind of grab on me. But Molly was one of those things I could give up because it was so exhausting and so difficult that I just one day kind of never went back. I had a bad enough like kind of ego death in a way, bad enough piece of Molly, if you will, that it took itself out of my life, right? In a way. And like going with the drugs ruining my brain and me not caring is, I think what it was is I thought I was the problem, not that drugs were the problem. Which is crazy. It goes to show I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, because what the fuck? I thought, why can't I handle these drugs right? Because you're doing them every day, babes. The fuck? Because you literally don't have serotonin. You're depleting yourself of every positive chemical your body can possibly have. I think about that too. Like how decreased of like serotonin, like I'm lucky to have survived that shit. And yeah, we get it. That's not what I'm here to do. It's like, yeah, blessings, whatever. But like, we're not here to be thankful, or like, we're here to talk. Sorry. We are here to be thankful, but you know what I'm saying. And that was just, I can't believe that. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Like if you are a silent Molly taker, you've been doing drugs a long time or overuse drugs, it comes to a certain point where like, you're not in there when you take them, right? You're like vacant and like, it's dark. It's really dark. It's you not being in your body, but it happens every time. And the more you take it, that doesn't go away. It just intensifies and it grows worse. And so I think I'm a bad drug taker. I was never like this. I always vibed out. Like, why am I so vacant? Like, what the fuck is going on with me? This is my fault. Like, oh my God, maybe it's the drugs, babe. The fuck? So that's the point on that. And then eventually I stopped measuring that and kind of looked inside, and that's when I realized that drugs had ruined me. And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, that was really bad. Holy shit, that absolutely ruined everything I am. And drug version of Maddie is one that I truly don't recognize. Alcoholism, Maddie, I recognize for her pain, and because of the reasons I laid out, kind of like the differences, they're the same, but in me personally, the differences. A drug Maddie, I do not recognize her. She takes me and launches me into a different atmosphere that like I don't even have the fucking postal code for, babes. Like I don't even know where that bitch is for real. Like I don't even know what universe she's in. And that's the type of shit, drugs are way scarier for that reason. Like, and when you're on that ship, you can't get off. And I remember too, like when I was young, this was when I was going into sophomore year of high school. And I remember looking up videos on psychedelics. Psychedelics were really big in my town. I think psychedelics being big in my town has a lot to do with my history and my story with drug abuse, because it all started with psychedelics. I don't know if that's common for people for it to all start with psychedelics, but it was not hard for me to get my hands on that. And I remember watching YouTube videos being like, I want to be that baddie. Like that shit, like that sounds crazy. That sounds cool. Like I want to be a baddie like that. Like dead ass, y'all. Embarrassing. But I'd like watch YouTube videos of like girls and like talking about their psychedelic shit and boys being like, oh my God, they're so cool. They do psychedelics. And I was like, I want to be that when I grow up. Basically, here I am. Honestly, like, yeah. And it's like so sad to know that the whole time as a child, and I wasn't open about these feelings. I did not like talk to people about it, obviously, but it's so sad to know that like that gene existed in me. My alcoholism, my addiction, it existed in me, and it was just waiting for the first touch that it got on something to love it and to choose it over everything, including self. And it's just so sad to know that I was setting myself up for like immense failure, because there was a reason that I was so interested, if you will, in drugs, and that it sparked so much curiosity in me. And that's because I belonged to them, honestly. Like, and I'm not scared to admit that I still feel that way. Now I belong to peace. Like, and this journey and this life for me revolves a lot around self-healing, because a lot of the hands of my pain revolved around me hating myself for most of my life. So I think it's a cycle that I'll face in this life. And I don't know if we reincarnate, if I'm being taught a certain lesson, but I know that it's really important for me to stay true to self and stay close to self. That's something I can't let go of that I've learned now. But it's so sad to think back, like if only she knew, she had the exact gene that everyone talked about. You know, I'm sure to my parents, they're just like, yeah, you know, she's a girl. There's no way. Like, could you imagine? I know in my children's life that, and this isn't my parents' fault at all. Like, they didn't know this was going on. They didn't know that my brain operated like this. I'm sure they had hope that I would be normal and like, but I know that my kids will be introduced to a world of recovery, of understanding, even if something bad happens to me, but understanding that they have a gene and that if they can stay away from that shit, that they are better off. And, you know, if they're normal, if they have a normal gene and luckily they didn't end up like that, then they're going to take that information as a normal person and go, oh, wow, then so I should not do drugs and alcohol. Heard, understood, got it. Because it's a dangerous place to be if you don't know. And I think it's really sad that when we educate about drugs, and I'm not here to talk about this, so I'm sorry. When we educate about drugs, we educate as if the drugs cause the addiction, which yes, they do. And drugs is different than alcoholism, but like there is a gene in play. And I don't know how you educate kids. I guess there's a reason that's not my place, because you have to educate them that they're bad in general, because drug addiction is different than alcoholism. People kind of stop with alcoholism if they're not an alcoholic because they don't want that, because they're sick. But, you know, drugs can take you over no matter who you are. You don't necessarily have to have that gene because of the way the drugs operate and the way that they intertwine and get into your brain and claw into you and become part of you in this deep, twisted way. Because alcoholism has a lot to do with self-abuse, but I fear that people fall into addiction a little bit different kind of than alcoholism in a way. And I'm not a doctor. It's not my place. This is just kind of what I've articulated. Yeah. Anyways, it's just sad for me to look back to those memories and be like, damn, girl, like you had the gene the whole time. What if you just didn't do drugs? But, you know, and I've done a lot of drugs in my day. Clearly, I've tried a lot of different stuff. I've drank a lot. And by far the most traumatizing and destructive thing that I've ever done or done to myself was cocaine, period. Like, if y'all understood the way that it scarred me, and if you've done cocaine or you've done a good enough amount, you know the scarring from it, and not in like a pleasant, fun, doing a little bit of coke way. And even to this day, like, I'm not going to walk through my addiction, but to this day, it was daily use for sure. I will walk down certain parts of King Street. I was walking with my friend the other day, and I remember one day I was up all night, and I was hiding it, and I was really dark and really sick, and like I was drinking and using coke in the morning time at this point. And that wasn't like necessarily an everyday occurrence. I was definitely probably drinking by morning at this point, but I was both using and drinking, which is a really dangerous spot to be, and mixing cocaine and alcohol, which then who did it first? Because like, it's so bad to mix cocaine and alcohol. I remember Googling it, not caring. So bad to mix it. So I don't know who first was like, we should mix it. We should mix this right now. Because let me tell you, even when I was on antibiotics as an alcoholic, I still like would be like, maybe I shouldn't do this, or try to drink less, or like have a mind about it. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy because I'm an insane person, and I usually wouldn't care about stuff like that. But I remember being like really scared that my heart would just stop because of mixing things. And I knew that that's where death came, and I wanted to continue to use or drink. And if I died, I couldn't continue to do that. And I didn't want my death to be by cocaine, because how fucking embarrassing. Sorry. But I was up all night, and I broke my phone, and in my insanity I drove all the way to downtown to try to get it fixed. Like, I don't even know what I was trying to do with that shit, bro. Like, walking around King Street with the hood up at 8 a.m. with a coke bag in my literal my hoodie pocket, and like doing like shit to stay awake, to get my phone fixed, to get my car fixed, like do the shit I needed to do for the day because I didn't sleep, because I didn't want to sleep. And anyways, that story doesn't matter, but I will never forget that feeling. And when I walk down certain parts of King, it like takes me over. I can feel it, and I get so scared and so relieved, but like I can feel it, because that type of energy does not die, right? Like, all that shit had to go somewhere, and it lives on those streets. Like, and there's a conspiracy that a lot of ghosts are truly the energy of something really, really bad that happened, like a hatred that could not be killed, like certain energy that just can't die. And I wonder if like that ghost, that version of me that day, like it exists there, and that's why I feel that way about it. Or it's just like in my brain. Our brain's a tricky space. Like, trying to articulate that through philosophy or like through religion is not, when I'm like, that's dumb. But yeah, I don't know. I had that memory the other day, and it was just like horrible. It took me so quickly. Cocaine did. Like, drugs just take you so quickly. Alcoholism is like a much more of a progression thing, whereas drugs, you just look up and you've been coked up for a year. And that's like a really sad fact too, if you don't know about like severe drug addicts. And that's why I'll always have a heart for like severe drugs, like things like heroin and crack and stuff and meth. And that's why I always have like a severe heart for people like that, because you look up and it's been 10 years and people say that. And I'm so blessed to like have not reached those trenches, to like where you come to and your kids are grown, or like, and that's terrorizing. Like, that's what drugs do to you. They take you away from your life. And I think, because I'm not here necessarily, like, I feel like now I'm just preaching on why you shouldn't do drugs and alcohol, but it's like, by the time that I got to AA and the year of drinking that I had done, of being blacked out where you don't remember things, you're not the person that you were, my brain had put up these intense walls that none of that ever happened. I was never addicted to coke. I never went through that much horrible, genuinely traumatic shit, and that never happened. That wasn't real. By the time that I got to AA, I didn't think of my cocaine use as me being sick and another spout of me being so sick again. And then like one day somebody was talking about it somewhere, and like it clicked, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't even thought about my drug addiction. I haven't even tried to heal it. That was a really dark and intense place in my life, and I was scared to go back to it too. It held so many memories, and I knew I had so much to work through of the past year of alcohol abuse that, you know, I'm set. I got so much shit to work through. I got plenty of work to do, because like, that was bad enough. I was so scared to go to that part of my life, that drug addicted part of my life, because it was so horrifyingly dark. I wasn't even sure that it existed anymore. And that was a big difference. And that's when I started healing the cocaine monster. To me, alcohol was, it was ingrained in me. Like I've explained, it was something that was meant for me and I was meant for it. And we were in a relationship and we loved each other. And breaking that bond was so intense, way more intense with Coke, that it was like an abusive boyfriend versus like a narcissistic one, you know, like one that's straight up just going to beat the fuck out of you. And then one that's going to make you love it and then beat the fuck out of you, you know, and like neither are good. But I was so focused on trying to break that relationship, that like relentless breakup battle, like the longest breakup that you could ever imagine. And I had struggled with breaking up with ex-boyfriends who I didn't like for a while, but couldn't break up with them because I sucked. And that was the big difference. And I thought because I was so, it was ingrained and it was such a part of me to be an alcoholic, that there was no way that I could also kind of be an addict too while I explored it. I was just kind of like, am I right about this? Like, you know, maybe it was just for the drinking, just for the shits and gigs. And I had to learn to break down those walls that my brain builds out of trauma and that keeps me in my addiction and away from people. Like I talked, the reason I chose alcoholism, and part of this is true, and a lot of people part with this, is that the reason that I ever used drugs was for me to drink more. It was to up my alcohol game. And that is true. That is very true. That is where it blossomed, and that is where the cocaine thing blossomed, but it was still an addiction. Then it rode side by side together for like, I don't even know how long daily I was using both in active use. Like it was a long time daily, like partying, like genuinely Monday through Friday, like finding somewhere to go, something to do. And I just told myself that I had always used it to drink more, and that just like wasn't the case in myself. But that's why I landed on being an alcoholic. And I do think for these reasons that I lay out for you, the relationships are similar, but I am meant for alcohol and alcohol is meant for me. And that's why I land on focus on alcoholism. Because like, I'm more likely to like, I'm not interested in picking up a bag. You know what I mean? Like that's not like itching my brain, but like something that itches my brain during hard times is going to get a shot of tequila. And I don't like the definitions. Y'all know that. So that's why now I understand I am an alcoholic and addict, but that's the reason that I landed on the alcoholism in the first place. Honestly, straight up, it was a lie. I loved drugs deeply. I loved drugs deeply. And it wasn't just alcohol. And it was a lie. And they were just so different from each other. But to me too, alcoholism was worse for my body and horrible for your mind too. But it's like the dumb version of addiction, you know, like you're craving to be nothing, to like not exist. Drugs like make you exist hardcore, right? Like you know you're existing, but like alcohol, like girl. And it's worse on my body, but a lot of the mental effects that I have left over in the way that I feel about myself were left over from drug abuse. It was the mental game, which is what I suffered with, which was what caused me to turn to alcoholism in the first place. But I would still be in love with that feeling if I did it again. I was blessed and I got out of the claws of that shit. Somehow, some way, divine energy, divine timing, whatever the fuck you want to call it, chance, I don't know. But that is where a big difference, once I understood that, it kind of changed because I was like, oh, all this pain that I carry, a lot of it is still from my drug addiction. These beliefs, the deep way that I feel about myself is left over from years of drug abuse and from severe cocaine abuse. I think I struggled to see my drug addicted self as sick. Now I see her deeply as sick because I understand what a sick person looks like. But because of how gross I was, I thought that that was just me and just who I was. And I thought that it was just different because alcoholism, I had no choice. It was life or death. But with alcoholism, it had to be like that simple for me on it is life or death. It is these very things like you have to change now. And it was so simple to see it laid out. And I think if I hadn't been through so much trippy, weird shit with drugs, that I would never know myself to this level. When it would come time to wake up, I wouldn't see it for what it was. Not that like my abuse or like self-trauma or anything that I went through helps me at all. It does not in any way. But I think that just, it was a big difference in healing, and it helped me to understand my alcoholism better is all. Because I had been an addict. I had gone through addiction. I had gone through getting clean off of drugs too. I didn't know that. I didn't understand the healing process. I didn't understand recovery. I didn't even know I was recovering. Like I did not know. But I think it helped me in turn later with healing from alcoholism in a way. And also like I didn't want to admit that I was an alcoholic, but I really, really did not want to admit that I had been a drug addict because it was embarrassing because I know better. And that's not like fair to say. Like saying you know better as an addict or alcoholic, we need to like stop with that verbiage because it's stupid. It's like, obviously we know better, you moron. That's the point. That's the issue with the disease, is that we know better, we still do worse. That's the whole point. So knowing better is like, that's twisted and wrong to say about yourself, because your brain functions differently than other people and it's not fair. And like, so I'll never say that necessarily, but because of family history and stuff, I was really embarrassed by the fact that I had fallen into drugs and I didn't need to be. If anything, it makes me feel better to know that there are genes involved and stuff, because obviously I was a sick person, and to see myself as that made things a lot simpler, and we've talked about it. It's crazy because I had less time with drugs, but they ruined me even more. Like, and alcoholism ruined me really, really bad, but it was such a small amount of time that like did leave very lasting effects on my future. In a way too, my brain is shaped perfectly for drugs. Okay. In the sense that I hate and love it at the same time. And there is a very drug addict-esque personality that comes, obviously, and it is craving the things that hurt you and this deep love for something that you hate but that you don't understand, but then you're stuck in the high again feeling the same way and you want it again. And like, my brain is built for that. My brain operates really well off of things that it hates, honestly. I love that pain. And I think I've always had a weird issue with liking pain and in a way, and like I never cut or anything or like did self-harm, and we talked about that in the last video. I never like inflicted any self-harm, but there was a pain that I loved about drugs. Like taking some shit and just like something deep and dark and overwhelming and overstimulating with no serotonin, a fake you in there. And like, it's not even you. I loved that shit. And my brain is shaped for it. Like, I would think while going through it that because the way drugs are, that it was the other side or something uniting me with these lessons that I had to learn, these deep pains that I would feel. I genuinely felt like I was going through boot camp in a way. And like acid and all that was different. And we'll have a whole psychedelics episode because that's where the start of my drug stuff started. Wasn't addicted to acid by any means, but it was the beginning. I did too much of it and it hurt me a lot, greatly. And it scarred my brain, but it also, that's where the growing came in place, because yes, if you take an acid, you understand part of it, or shrooms or whatever, part of it is an experience of growth. But that does not mirror across other drugs. So like, that's not happening with cocaine. If you feel away, it's because you're finna have a fucking panic attack, bitch. Like actually. And like, I could not process that. So it was, and I think because my whole life too, I felt like I needed punishment. And I think that I deserve this constantly. If I feel a sense of punishment or something bad happening, this is the universe giving it to me because I'm supposed to feel it, because I need to be taught a lesson. And it was a subconscious thing where I always knew I needed to be taught a lesson, but I wasn't about to learn it at the same time. And it was subconscious, and it caused me to inflict pain on myself in those ways, I think. But in reality, I was in deep, 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 dark pain from drug abuse and from what it had done to my brain and how it had made me feel about myself and others and my life. And I think that those signs now are uber important when I look back. If you have those feelings, it's really important to look back on those, because it sets up relationships with men too, in a way. And the way that you look at yourself and your relationship with yourself translates to your emotional and like your intimate relationships with others. And it's really, really dangerous. So if you have that thing that I just kind of like articulated for you in your brain about pain and about with drugs, and maybe you've experienced that through taking Molly, even if it's recreational, but you still feel that, it's really dangerous, and it sets you up for a very scary life to come if you don't heal that pain, right? Because obviously it's not something you can just get rid of. Naturally, that's how you occur. But when you're healing, looking back to those things and those parts of you are really important. I didn't understand that when I was getting into recovery, and it was a big difference in my alcoholism and my drug abuse, because I had that, yes, with alcoholism, but drugs was the next level of it. Because y'all know alcoholism was like, I kept going back to the same thing that hurt me, yes, but like to that extent, it's a whole process again. It's really going to lengths to harm yourself, like extreme lengths to do it in a way, right? And And I just think those signs are really important. It's something I didn't look for. And maybe that's kind of what I'm showing you today is the difference is, I guess, in terms of healing now. More so than my active use. Now, one thing that's structured in my life, and y'all see me do this, is that like I am not allowed to love things that hurt me. And if I feel, I'm not allowed. Things that hurt me, I cannot remotely like. They just can't exist. They cannot be in my life. And that's something that's followed me since my drug addiction or since learning to heal my drug addiction. It's a really big lesson I've learned to look out for and red flags within myself. And now in healing, because I am an addict. I'm an addict and I'm an alcoholic. Y'all, it is too naive to pretend that I am not both. I've said that before. You guys know that. And now that's what I land on. I am both. But in a way too, healing now, I see my alcoholism and my addiction in different character traits, in different ways, and in different parts of my life. And I have to be open to the fact of healing in that way and of like being open enough to see myself in that way and recognize which version of her is coming out. Because like I talked about the different versions of me, they aren't gone. You know what I mean? Like they still exist in a lot of ways. I can't get to my subconscious. I don't know what's in there. I don't know which part of my drug addiction, which part of stuff, like it's shoved down in there. But sometimes I react certain ways that are not like myself. Or I do something and I'm just like, oh, that's coke addiction. Like that is the depths. Like that selfish girl got stuck in there. When I get too stressed out too and get overwhelmed in certain ways, or especially if I'm overthinking my actions, which I don't do anymore. I don't overthink the things that I have done the night before, stuff like that. If I'm at work and I say something or I do something and I think about it, I get this twitch, which was started strictly through cocaine addiction. Strictly. That twitch that I do with my mouth, that's when it started. When I have that, if that occurs to me now, because it's gone. It's been gone for a while. I am in distress, underlying subconscious way, in a way that's vacant and in a way that mimics my drug abuse. And it can still exist with no drugs in my brain. I don't know how to articulate that, if that made sense. And so like for me, because my anxiety and my depression, and not that I'm talking about anxiety and depression in a sense of kind of how everyone's looks like in a lot of ways, because we all have our sadness, we all have our anxieties. I went through different parts of those in my life, and my drug addiction had a lot to do with my future, which had a lot to do with anxiety, and my alcoholism had a lot to do with my past and with depression and with that cycle of thinking about yesterday too in a lot of ways. And I think that those come to light in different times, like gluttony and different things, the way that they translate across different drug addictions too, those outlets still exist in my brain. So my gluttony with alcoholism had to do with me overeating. It was a personal thing, me hiding, me over drinking, me binging, me freaking out. And then it's kind of like my eating disorder too, in a way. Then the other part of my life, the anxiety, the like, I don't need more, but like, I'm scared little kid, like, I need more to try to get out of this state, or to try to think it to the bottom is what it really is. And both of those exist in me in a very real way. And both of those catered to a drug or to alcohol. And the fact that I articulate it that way now, I'm not sure when that started happening, but I just realized that some of my defects were left over from alcoholism and some were left over from drug addiction, some from both, but they spawned in me in different ways. Because when I go back to look for the roots of stuff, when I go back to look back for the way that I feel, like, why do I feel that way? Why is this? I have to go back in the depths, because I put those walls up a long time ago during my drug addiction, where I was just like, no, don't care about that. We're not going to fix that. Because when I go back and reach, I got to try to reach for the right spot. And then I go back and I remember something. I'm like, oh my God, I remember this day now at this time, standing in a club, coked up, and this happened, and it stuck with me. And I remember it now. I guess if that makes sense. And because of that reason, I will always now treat them as separate in my healing. Because they do present in different ways. I think both are the same, obviously, and it's a huge part of who I am. My brain took its opportunity at forgetfulness that it didn't get a lot of. My subconscious genuinely tried to fully consume my drug addiction. It almost took it too. Like it tried to it did not happen. It did not exist. And that makes it really dangerous. I guess this is obvious, but that makes it really dangerous for the rest of my life if I don't pay attention to it. And if I don't understand the difference of it in myself, because that means like if I forget about it, that's something I can go back to. You can't forget the pain of the cycles of your abuse, and we all know that. Like some people, that's what keeps them sober, is replaying the tape. They call it replaying the tape in your mind of the last time you were drunk, or like when you promised you wouldn't do this again, when you promised this wouldn't happen, when you swore this would never happen again, when you swore you wouldn't do coke again. And it's really dangerous for me to forget that. So I think sometimes, even if I don't want to be reminded of it, or I don't want to talk about it, or I don't want to write about it, I kind of force myself to, because I'm scared of the possibility of drug addiction occurring again, because my brain thinks it wasn't that big of a deal and that it didn't happen. And I think once I opened back up my subconscious to the pain and the trickery of the past, it was just like, ouch. And I remember kind of first going through that was, if you're in the program, for me, it was kind of steps 4 and 5 in a way, was when it really started to come out, and it hurt. Month 4 and 5, steps 4 and 5, both of those were also periods that I really struggled with relapse. The possibility of drinking again was reoccurring in my mind at like 4 and 5 months, which is obviously really early in sobriety. And it was around that time, because it was so hard to face that demon of drugs, and accept her. And that was the whole point, the whole basis of all of this, and why I feel so much peace this summer, was the acceptance of who I was. And if I do that, then I can look in my past. I have this clean slate mentality. So I can look into my past and see these things without the fear of becoming her. But obviously I was early in recovery, and that fear very much existed. And I didn't know where to run, but I got help for it. And I opened up about my drug addiction, about the past, and made sure to take care of her and take care of that drug addicted girl, and to not leave her where she was and let my subconscious eat her and swallow her whole, like it wants to do with most things. And I think also the drugs takes a part of you that you will not get back. It is a much more long-term situation. A lot of the things that I lost in my alcoholism, I have been rewarded with tenfold. And that's a lot of the promises of alcoholism, is your body can regenerate at this different way. And your brain does have plasticity. I was 24 at the time, maybe not for me. And I think I lost parts of myself to drug addiction that I will never get back. And that is a lesson that I've learned, that it taught me greatly moving forward in my life, that I don't look to rebuild the past, but to build something new. And I lost this part of me, and I won't get her back, but I can't suffer and be upset over it. And I can't try to redo it, but I can build this new part of her here and be there for her here. And it's about the new and the exploring. I think a lot of the drug addiction recovery was for me, because the secretive and that nasty long-term piece of drug addiction, it's kind of hard to get through when you open your eyes to it, because it takes pieces of you. And I guess I just said that, but it takes pieces of you forever. And there are parts of me that will always be lost to drug addiction. And that's the really scary part about drug addiction too. You don't know you're doing it while you're doing it, but I'm openly letting a Coke bag take away these very deep, beautiful things about myself. And I don't even know that I'm making that transaction in the middle of a fucking club. You know, that's sad as fuck. And that's why I will always love her, and why I will always have a heart for people like myself, and for people who even suffer from harder addictions and from hard drugs. Cause like, it's at the cost of the fact that you hated yourself, and that sucks. Like, most of the time that's the case. And like, or to just have a little more fun, and you don't even know that it's going to cost you so much in the long run. And so I do look for signs of her, and the pieces of me that have been harmed from drugs, I kind of like, because they keep a guard up, and they've taught me something. They're the wisdom of that, you know, like left over in a way. And like, because it's scars, it's emotional scars, but now I understand them. And I think like it came to me being able to articulate that, because I can see the scars on my skin. I can see all of that, and they heal and they move on, but these emotional scars are not. And that hurts really deep. And I want to drink, like during my recovery. And these emotional scars I could see as healing now. And they prompt me to live a more beautiful life. And they prompt me to love my past. And I'm different and unique because of that. And I view things differently, some negative, but also some positive. And so I think that was a big part of me accepting the drug addicted self, and a big part in the difference of my alcoholism and my addiction. And it was when I really started to truly love myself and be there for her in that way. And it wasn't like that until I opened up to my addiction side too. And I feel like that's what I'm making this about, is to not forget the addiction side, because it's very real. And it's something I explore now, but it's also dangerous to explore and really scary. Like really scary. There's a reason my brain tried to swallow my addiction whole. There's a reason for that. And that's because it's terrifying. It's like watching a scary movie, genuinely. And I hate it. I hate it. Now I love myself way more, but like I will always have to go through bits and pieces of that, of things coming back and me being like, oh shit, we got to sit down and work on this right quick. Yeah, I'm here to say to like let your walls down and don't be afraid to explore what drugs took from you and take it back. Take it back. Like that was something that I didn't think I could do. I feel like what I kind of articulated to at some point in my brain that helped me was that like drug addiction is an alligator, and this is so Maddee code to me. I'm not giggling a lot right now because this is a very serious subject to me, and it's not that funny to me. And it's a beautiful thing that I worked really hard for. So like there's not a lot of joking going on, but like this is me being autistic Maddee, and the factor of like the animal love of the difference in my addiction is an alligator and my alcoholism is a shark. Both are horrible things. Both will kill you at the end of the day. But that alligator does not care if it bit the wrong thing. The alligator does not care if you're its prey. It's going to take you down and like death roll the shit out of you and kill the fuck out of you. A shark is going to bite you. If you're not its prey, it's going to go away. It might come back more for more blood, or you might just bleed out because of the wound that it's caused, right? And when I started, like, this is how my brain works. When I started to understand the differences in those, it gave myself a lot of inner peace, to understand myself as a prey. Honestly, to understand that, to understand also the scarring and the healing process of moving on past these things. Because I'm supposed to be dead if it was up to my drug addiction, and I'm supposed to be injured, nearly dead. With my alcoholism too. Both things. I'm supposed to be dead and I'm not. I guess, I don't know. Did that help you guys, or was that stupid as fuck? Oh yeah, and I wrote on here, I didn't say that too, the twitch was accompanied by the similar feelings of the cocaine addiction. And I wrote on here how sad that was, that when I noticed it, it was like so interesting to me too, that like my brain goes back to that same space. Like even if we don't remember it, things are bookmarked within us and are created us, manifested into a whole personality trait, into something that we are now that we forgot about. I'm rediscovering along the way the things I missed in healing, and do not ever look over your drug trauma. Do not. It has caused immense bounds and growth in my healing and understanding that part of myself, even though I did not want to, and I wanted to shut the door, honestly. I think the key is for everything, and the key for myself is to understand that I am not healed fully, and I never will be. Because that's the beauty in life, and the game that we play is that I get to keep learning in terms of myself and my healing. It's okay that my drug abuse still affects me to this day, years later, like 2 years later. It's okay that it affects me, but it's not okay for me to leave it behind and ignore it. I just want others to be aware of that, and the fact that drugs will have a long lasting effect on my life and my emotions and my brain chemistry for a long time to come, and maybe my whole life, and maybe I scarred parts of myself, but that's okay. So this is kind of like just a little bit of the difference, I guess, in my alcoholism, my addiction, and what I look for moving forward and how I heal her. Because also, you didn't have to use a huge amount of drugs. If you have trauma from your drug addiction or if you have trauma from drugs at all, you took Molly that one time and you think it fucked you or like whatever, those versions of us still exist, and they still exist in pain. And it's okay to look back at those times and try to heal them or go back and look for them. Because you're very right to feel that scarred from drugs. Okay. And I think because maybe in recovery, maybe in rooms, we know true drug addiction and how sad that is. And like the deep depths of like a meth or heroin or something. And so we don't feel like we have the credentials to necessarily say that we're addicts, but you do. And you're not taking away from anybody else's healing journey. You're only taking away from yourself by not articulating that and growing to understand the way that drugs ruin everyone, and that's okay. You know, just because you're not a heroin addict doesn't mean that you can't talk about it or you can't grow to understand your addictions. And I didn't even talk about Adderall and its effects because luckily it played such a smaller role, and it played more of a role in my eating disorder that I talked about last episode. And then it was towards the end of Coke for me. So Coke was my main issue, and Adderall is its own whole scary beast that I guess we'll talk about a different time because we don't have time today and I have to go to work. I hope this was okay. I feel like these have been a little dark and weird lately. So I'll get back on the fun train too soon here, guys. Sorry. But I'm living my best life. Okay? Happy 4th. I love you guys. Don't take drugs. Bye.